And we're back. Welcome to Print Your Games, the podcast for 3D printing and what's new and awesome in it. I'm one of your hosts, Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Param, and I'm joined by
Kristen Sowards, also known as Lost Spheres.
And today we are joined by one of the artists that I use every time I get a chance to show how awesome the selection of models in 3D printing can be. Adam from Twin Goddess Miniatures. Adam, welcome to the show.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the praise. No, I'm glad people like what I'm doing.
Yeah, your stuff's amazing. I've got like 24 printed right here.
Oh God, yeah, you're absolutely. We've talked about your stuff on the show several times now. We're super glad to finally get you up on the show. And indeed, when I talk about boutique miniature providers, you are literally the sculptor that I have in mind when I use that phrase. So for anybody who doesn't know what Twin Goddess is, could you give us the 30-second version?
So Twin Goddess Miniatures, it's just myself and a couple artists every month making fun tabletop heroes and villains. I just wanted to make something that was memorable, something that was dynamic, and kind of you could just show off at your table and everyone think that's a really cool little guy you got there.
All right. So how many people, you said that you've got a couple of artists besides yourself? Are you the primary artist or what's the size of the company?
So it's really mostly me. 90% of what you're seeing, 95% some months are going to be me. So a little backstory now. I'm actually a 2-year college professor. It's a 2-year school that teaches visual effects and 3D animation for games and film. So I have 2 graduates who are working at different studios, but every once in a while I say, hey, would you like some extra work? And they typically help me out. So we have Autumn. She will typically do alternate outfits or like swappable heads. If I need multiple pieces, she comes in and helps with that. She's been doing a bit more lately with like, here's the base of a character. I need it completely sculpted, and she adds onto it. So that was before I had anyone else on. But yeah, so like something like that, which I would ask her to make an alternate outfit. And then Kyle is my monster guy. So if I have a cool monster mini, like the Sand Drake or something like that, that would have been Kyle's. I'm more of a character artist, so I'm learning how to do the big creatures as we go, but that is ones that he's done. He's done about 4 or 5 for me now. But like I said, 95% of what you see is me. So that one was mine, but that's the only one.
Okay.
I needed that one specifically for one of my campaigns. You need that Bards dragon, you know. He's trying just to do something. Right. Maybe the dragon is the one you should be worried about.
Yeah. For our audio listeners, I pulled up a rather comfortably posed dragon miniature that I assumed was the large monster that Kyle was sculpting, but no.
So
that has enough story that I assumed it was yours, Adam. That oozes flavor and a certain vibe, but we won't necessarily assume.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just 2 graduate students. So I'm trying to get them kind of started off and going, because I know that they could also do this by themselves. So trying to get them prepped up, get their skills up to par so that they could start opening their own shops.
Nice.
Now, you mentioned that you had a background in education, right? That's that you're a college professor, and that kind of hits my bias. Like, the running joke in the games industry is that everybody involved in the game industry was either in education or IT.
So I've been teaching for almost 10 years now, but before that I actually worked in the film industry. So I was VFX artist for a lot of different films. I am a Googleable for IMDb, but I have 17 film credits. Worked on Harry Potter, Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I worked on The Conjuring, a bunch of other films, a lot of VFX stuff, not really mostly 3D modeling, but like fire, gunshot, wounds. I removed the pimples from everybody in the Twilight Princess movie, like stuff like that. And that's how I got into teaching, was kind of coming in from there. And then D&D didn't really become like a big part of my life until like the last 3 or 4 years. I met a trivia group, and one day we're like, let's play D&D. And I was like, oh, I've been wanting to do that. And once that sparked the interest, I was like, I need to start making my own minis. And then the printers finally got better. And I was like, okay, now I'm going to start printing my own minis. And that just snowballed. And then my wife encouraged me. She's like, why don't you just do that and see what happens? And I was like, okay. And now I'm making more doing that than teaching. So it's slowly becoming the big profession. And don't know how much longer I'll be teaching, but it depends on how big this grows and if I need more time to work on it.
Right. I happen to hang on to my education side gig with iron claws because of the benefits.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But yeah,
I am, free falling in the, trying to do it for real, and probably less successful than you. But I think that's awesome that you're getting to that point.
Your miniatures are so strikingly different from everything else that's out there. Like, they have one of the things that I strongly appreciate with your models are that they always have these absolutely amazing kinetic, energetic poses, even when it's like a relaxing scene. Like, you've got this elf wizard character who the pinup model, thank you for making that, by the way.
Yes.
I am going to be enjoying painting those abs for a few hours, but it's like, even that, just an elf character leaning on the tie is billowing forward, the coat is open. None of your characters exist in a static pose. Like, why is that? Like, where did this come from, and how can we get more people to be like you?
So my two my two rules when I'm sculpting anything is that there's always a window open somewhere, and the floor is lava. So you need to make sure that there is come back to like actual like traditional art terminology. Contrapposto is the magical word. Counterpose. You want the shoulders and the hips counter rotated to each other and twisted. And if you do that, it can make any standing pose look heroic. It can make it look dynamic. And then if you get a little bit of cloth movement in there, all of a sudden, oh, this is a hero now. This is a story we're telling. And that was actually a joke. I don't think I had a goblin touch the ground. You see, you're pulling up a goblin mini right now, until a good year and a half into making minis. Finally, their feet got to touch the ground for the Christmas release when I did all my Christmas goblins. But it was actually at the request of some patrons, because they're like, I want to be able to have my own base too. And I was like, oh, okay, I can make them touch the ground. That's fine. So then, but yeah, no, I really pride myself in the dynamic poses. And I think this comes a lot from like the things that inspire me as an artist. Warcraft and the Blizzard artwork in general is a big thing for me. And they've always had a lot of liveliness to all their concept art, to all their promotion, especially like in Hearthstone. And that's what I want it to be. I want it to tell a story. I don't want a character on the board to be a placeholder. I want it to be a story just from itself. I want to look at that mini and want to know more about who that is. I want to fear that villain. I want to know that hero.
I think that's very, very clear in everything. I was talking before we started about Esteban, and like the idea that I always ask people, would you please do spell effect bases? Would you please do flight bases? Would you please do whatever? And that is one of the coolest, most dynamic flight bases I have ever seen. The swirling mist and everything. And he also looks like super relaxed, but like at the same time, like in control and command, and just so much personality. And he's pointing, like maybe he's shooting a spell. Maybe he just like, like, hey, we got to go there. But like, there's so many possibilities, yet like all of them seem to suggest something. And wow, like just, I can't shut up about that particular mini. I like immediately when I took it off the printer, I went like, I've of course had to do like multiples and stuff. And I've been trying to like figure out other ways to use this little flight base thing. I think I'm going to keep printing them for other minis to see if I can like get them in there, because there's just, occasionally a magic carpet, but nothing like that. And that is just hats off. It's so dynamic and so fun. And then of course with your sculpting his pose to even perfectly fit in there.
That's That one was very, very important mini for me because that is my longest played character.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so Esteban that's me. That's my character. He is an illusion wizard. He's a con artist.
Best kind of wizard.
And
I believe that he's a con artist. Looking at him, I totally see that.
He's very suave. Think Princess Bride meets like Antonio. It's Zorro. It's Antonio Banderas. It's this outlander who's ready to woo everyone and take their cash and disappear the next morning. So I've had him this character for a really long time, 15 years or so. Got to play him every once in a while, but it was super, super dear to my heart. So I didn't want to do that until I knew I was gonna be able to do them right. And that's like this year. I think I did them back in last November. I was like, yeah, okay, now it's the time. And that whole November set was actually like characters that I've been wanting to do that I held off on. And like Mortimer the Sphinx cat, that one was actually, he's like the head of a menagerie, and that's one of the a very favorite NPC of my wife's campaign. So he has a bunch of creatures in the zoo, and that's where the Bahydra model comes from. He's
the
like
Bahydra?
Yeah, it's like a crossbreed monstrosity.
I actually have an eye Hydra in one of my books, and so it was the same idea but yours is super sweet. I love it.
Yeah. And that was done by Kyle, so that's where I actually had to specifically tell them this is the design. He's got to have beholder eyes, but also be a Hydra. Figure it out. So
yeah, the one we had done. He has little vestigial legs. They're just hanging below him, and he's got all the like eye heads, doing that. But I love that one that Kyle did. That's awesome.
That's fun.
Now, I'm curious. What's your background in art? Because you don't seem to have you weren't making miniatures for like Reaper or Warlords Atlantic before this. You had an artistic visual effects background. Like, could you go into what that was like first?
Sure. I mean, so I went to college for video games actually originally.
Okay.
I wanted to be a character artist. I wanted to be hired by Blizzard. I was denied, and then I found work in the visual effects industry. So I feel that all the stuff I did in film again was more like it was visual effects. It was practical effects. I wasn't really 3D modeling, and that's kind of drove me out of it eventually. I didn't want to simulate cloth. I didn't want to add in spooky ghosts in the background. I wanted to like make a character. I wanted to animate them. I wanted to model them. And then when I started teaching, that was kind of an opportunity to start building my skills again, because I was able to show students how to do it. But then that was also an excuse for me to make another character every year. That was an excuse for me to make another animation every year to show them how to do it. And then I just got so fast at doing it and so quick at like making an entire character from scratch that I was like, why am I not monetizing this in some way? I'm doing it for fun already. I'm not going to make something for someone. I don't want to do any more commissions. I was done with commissions. I don't want to make your character. I want to make my character, and I want you to like my character. So you can come buy mine. I don't want to make yours. But I still like to get some input and see what people love and what they want to see. And then how can I twist it? How can I make it something different than every other XYZ you see? We have a dwarven barkeep, of course, that's going to be something you see, but how can I make mine different enough that makes you go, that's fun. I want to have that in my story. But as far as like the skills, I just kept doing it. Like I don't feel like I actually got really, really good at character sculpting, and it's like the past couple of years, and that's just from doing this. I can look at the stuff I started from even 2 years ago for the shop and go, oh, that looks terrible. The pose is so weak. There's parts that are so flimsy. I had minis where the bases are part of the model. I just didn't know what I was doing then. And then just from doing over and over and over and over, that's where I'm at now. It's just literally nose to the grindstone type modeling. I can do an entire character in about 6 hours now.
Wow. It's impressive.
So how how is what you're doing now different from when you were designing characters? Because we've talked with a couple of people who've made the jump from video games
Mhm.
to sculpting,
Yeah.
and is that a big challenge to go over into 3D printable miniatures as opposed to some of the cheats you can get away with when you're sculpting for video games or for visual effects?
Oh, for sure, for sure. The biggest challenge I think what really helped was before I even actually started making my own, I had bought a resin printer. I had gotten like one of the early Anycubic printers,
Mhm.
and I could see what failed. I could see what didn't print well, and I had to learn very quickly that you can't have gaps. You can't have like your hair not touch the head. Everything has to be connected and fused in some way. And then even on top of that, you have to learn how to start leading. I can't have 90-degree angles. I can't have, stuff overhanging. How does the axe lead up to the hand so that I don't have to support the fingers? Like there's just a lot of fun problem solving that you have to do in this that you wouldn't have in gaming. But like my background too, I really like rigging and character rigging,
Mm-hmm.
and that actually helps a lot. I think, which other artists are just you're sculpting directly, but I actually have base bodies for a lot
Mm-hmm.
of different like body types, a lot of different faces that are completely rigged, fully facially rigged. So like one of the latest ones I did with is this goblin queen, the evil queen
Oh
from
yes, I love
Sailor
this
Moon.
one.
In the
Like
Magic Girl set, yeah, it's
yeah,
cool.
like her whole face is rigged, like to a Pixar level facial rig.
Mhm.
So I can completely do all the expressions that I want. I can pose her exactly the way I want, and then just bring that into ZBrush and begin sculpting. Put all the clothes, put all the hair. But like I couldn't get that kind of facial sculpt so often if I hadn't just took the time on the front end to rig all these faces, because I can now go, okay, I need a muscular guy. Let me go grab my chiseled jaw head, put an expression on that, slap it on the big body, or put it on the thin body. And it's almost like playing with action figures. I'm swapping out arms, I'm swapping out legs, but then I have to make it all one piece and then get that action in there. And I do a lot of like post editing. Like if you look at what this looks like before I start sculpting, it's a completely different model. But I really wouldn't be able to get that really strong facial expression without knowing how to do a facial rig.
Right. And I do appreciate rigging with like I do a lot of kit bashing to customize. Like that's one of my favorite parts about this hobby is like with I don't do it so much with your stuff because your stuff is like so artistically driven. Like kit bashing it would almost like ruin it. But like for a lot of like when I'm trying to build out an army for and I like to customize and kit bash. And the very first thing I do is find the version of the pose that's closest to an A pose and rig it out
Mm-hmm.
just so that because that makes things so much easier to get more dynamic posing. But at the same time, when I talked with the artists behind Cast and Play, they were like very vehemently against rigging. They wanted to do custom sculpting from the beginning. So I guess that's a completely different approach to the same problem.
Yeah, I think it's just what suits your strengths. So what are you rigging yours in? I'm curious. What program?
Blender.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to make the switch to Blender just for the price reasons mostly.
Yeah.
And the rendering
I'm
engine
broke.
and the hair system's outrageously good now. But I learned Maya back in 2008, and that's what I've been using primarily for all my animation rigging. And then I've been using ZBrush now since I think 2014. So I was kind of late to the game on that one. I was using Mudbox, which was another Autodesk product, but it's kind of hard for me just to like completely separate myself from it. I've been getting more and more into like working in ZBrush, which is an awesome program for sculpting. I know Blender's got their sculpting too, but I'm sorry, you can't get to the poly count that you can in ZBrush, and it's not a intuitive interface, but oh man, is it strong. And I would say anyone who really wants to get into this, now it kind of sucks because like Maxon just bought them out, so like you have to get a monthly sub. You can't just buy buy the thing.
I was wondering if that was going to happen, so that's unfortunate.
My old license, Yeah, well, you can probably still get it now, but you're locked into that version. Like they're gonna stop doing the free upgrades. But it's such a good program, and I think for like the people who really want to hardcore get into this, you kind of have to learn it. But for rigging and posing, the Blender's awesome, and it's the skin weighting is a lot easier too, like for getting the bend arms and legs and stuff. But that's cool. I'm excited to see what people start doing with it. And it's like, I'll say this, I'll give everyone who's listening permission. You're allowed to kit bash my stuff. I love to see it. One of my favorites I saw was they took like the sexy sax bard and they added like a ghost over his shoulder. He was like basically ghosting him. Like, it was really funny. And so I like to see that kind of stuff.
It's cool. I know a lot of people are a little more controlling about their assets, so that's nice that you're supportive of that.
Well, since you're kind of leaning into your teacher mode right now, what would you recommend for? No, I want to lean into it.
No, absolutely.
What would be your recommendation for one of our listeners that's like, hey, I love 3D modeling. I want to start making characters. I want to start making my own minis. Where do I start?
Well, let's say if you want to start making your own minis and you're like worried about, maybe I'm not a good artist, maybe I don't know how to sculpt a head that looks like a head, maybe it looks like a potato. So when you're just starting off, you need to get rid of that, like, if I use an asset pack, I'm cheating. If I'm using a base model, I'm cheating. Because it's not, because you still have to pose it, you still have to put clothes on it, you still have to give it an expression in life. Go on artstation.com. It's a portfolio website, but they also have a marketplace, and people sell modular bodies. $2, $3. Download a bunch of them and mix and match. Take hands, take feet, take faces, and just start plopping them together. And I think that's a really good way to kind of get a sense of how it's supposed to be built, because you're looking at someone who does it professionally. You're looking at someone who knows anatomy very well, making these, and then you're just rotating and positioning stuff at that point. You're not like fumbling as much as like, how do I actually sculpt the muscle out? It's like, it's already there. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, and you can get it posed the way you like, and then you can start throwing armor on it and start making your first minis. Now, you probably, depending on how much work you do on it, you're not going to be able to sell it unless you have licensing rights. You can buy commercial licenses for some of these. It's a bit more, but you're allowed to then sell it as long as you're not selling the A-pose model that you got from them. But like, that's a great way to get started, because like, I don't want to have to like get 4 years of an art degree to be able to start making cool guys, right? So go find stuff that's already there. Blender is a good one to start with too, just because it's free. You can take those pre-mades and get them in there. But one of the big things that you can like really do to kind of get used to all this too is get your hands dirty and make something. Like get some clay, get some actual some green stuff and sculpt something with your hands and see what it's like. So like, so you can start thinking about form and volume and direction. And I don't know if there's probably tons of tutorials on YouTube too. My background is fine arts. Like I went to a 4-year university, and when I got out, I learned how to make 3D animation. That's like, how does that make you feel? I wasn't actually, it wasn't like a technical training thing. So I was actually a little gimped there, but in some sense it helped, because now I understand like the storytelling aspect of it. I didn't have my skills up by that point. Like that's what I said, Blizzard rejected me. I wasn't that great yet. I had a theory of art, not necessarily the practical skills, but that gets there just with time. And the best way to get better is to just continuously fall down until eventually like, oh, I made something good, and you remember that, and then you keep moving.
Awesome. Furiously writing down notes to do much of the same thing. All right.
I mean, like, it's funny because like I actually, like myself, I'll find a really cool model on ArtStation and I download it and I tear the thing apart. I look at like, oh, how did they get that muscle to look that cool? How did they get that fingernail that looks so great? And I'll inspect the mesh and I'll go, okay, I got it. And then I'll make it myself. And then I have a giant folder of hands. I have a giant folder of feet. I have a giant folder of forearms of heads, and that's what I use to start from everything. And that's twofold. It makes it fast, but also it constrains the style, because if I know I'm using these 10 bases for everything I make, they're always going to look like it was from the same series, the same person. Because I do have an issue of style drift. If I find a really cool artist online that I like their stuff, I'll notice, oh, all my stuff looks like theirs. Like I'm starting to copycat them. So I have to like pull myself back a lot and go back to like, okay, this is what you're starting with. Don't steal, let's like grab one of my Galad miniatures, I love his stuff. Really nice guy. I think like I had I have to talk with them on Discord all the time, but we use a lot of the same asset packs for like ornamentation, and we tease each other because we'll be like, I know where that spiral's from. I got that pack too. I know where that gem's from. I have that one too.
Nice.
Yeah, I run into that third-party publishing all the time where I'm like, oh, you use that, graphic design asset pack, and like I recognize that filigree, and it's on page 12 in my book, but
it's like I have to agree with you there, because like I've been at this from both the graphic design, creative visual artist, video design, and RPGs and computer programming, and when you get into the field and you're doing it professionally, they're buying asset packs left and right. They're getting pre-written code snippets, or just grabbing templates off of story blogs. It's like, why spend like 40 of your hours reinventing something that somebody else already did perfectly fine and you can give them $10 for? It's important to know how some of this stuff is done and be able to do some stuff yourself, but I don't need to spend 90% of my work rewriting code for a website that has already been written, or doing graphic design templates that I can just go ahead and grab off of story blocks or anything like that. And it would be silly to think that like the professional sculpting world was any different than every single other creative field I've worked in.
Yeah, and you can see it. Like, I'm sure sometimes it's to a detriment. You'll see some artists where it's like, that's just the same guy every month, but he has a different set of armor on. That's the same face. It's the same body. It's everything the same, except now he's got plate mail instead of leather. And I mean, it's whatever. If somebody wants that mini, they're going to buy it, because I have to kind of think too, is, if we're from like a patron standpoint, yeah, it feels kind of scummy to reuse stuff. But let's say you stumble across my mini factory page. You don't care about the 12 guys in plate armor. You don't care about the guy in elven mail. I was like, I need a rogue right now, and I don't care that this rogue looks like all of his other guys. That rogue looks cool, and I want that rogue. So it's like not as big a deal, I find, when you look at it in that standpoint. But I don't like making. If I reuse a character, it's because I want it to be that character again, and I want them to be in a different pose. But that's just me. And I notice, like, you say, oh, this is one of my pet peeves. You see sites like, we released 80 minis this month, but 10 of them are the same guy posed differently.
Right. Yeah. Whereas like you'll have somebody in a costume who's in a totally different pose, completely different clothing. Like, yeah, maybe the base model looks similar, but it's oftentimes you've also rigged the face differently. It's a totally different expression. It's not Megator, just
And I think there's definitely place for both styles. Like, I appreciate both. Like with your models, like these are like unique characters that are art that I'm going to appreciate just because they're awesome and they exist in this unique posing, and also you do offer them in like several different outfits, and like there's the sorcerer tiefling who's also the drummer in the band, and I like how you've done all of that. But I do also appreciate, like, when I'm trying to fill out like I need 100 elves for this army, so I don't care that 10 of them are the same guy reposed, because I need literally 100 of you.
No, yeah, for sure. Wargaming's a little different. Right. I'm not as big on that, and I think that's why it definitely shows on my Patreon, because it's like I feel like I could make a bunch of I could do like Artisan Guild, and make a faction every month, and they all have similar armor, and like, okay, well, you got the hero units, and it's like, that's really cool, and I'm sure it appeals to a lot of wargaming people, but that's just not my style. because it's usually like originally when I started 3D printing, Artisan Guild was like, oh, heart and soul. Like I love their stuff, and I would go to it, but I just want that one. I don't need your whole army. I need that guy because I'm making a swashbuckler, and I need that guy. So it's like I don't need 20 minis for $10. I just need to pay you 3 for that one guy.
Well, yeah, I hope it doesn't disappoint you to know that like several of your models are in my little sister's all-female paladin army called the Galadins.
Nice. That's awesome. I'm hoping this month would have added a couple more of those then.
Actually, this month the Sailor series, or like I have a friend who is a D&D GM who is like the world's biggest Sailor fan. So I was just like, oh, you're gonna beg me to print you these, and then I just started meshing some cop images that you were posting as you were posting. I'm like, and so I'm gonna have to deliver a care package soon.
I noticed their naming conventions, by the way. Like, are you a big Spelljammer person, or is that?
I'm glad you caught on. I didn't think many people would.
Oh no! As soon as I saw Glyph, I was like, "Wait a second!" And I checked the other names. I was like, "No, these are all like the worlds in realm space." And then your one Warforged is Eberron, which I was just like, "Oh, this is some deep lore stuff. Please let me know. I want to know about it."
So in my personal campaign, I did a very, I feel like 80s cartoon series arc, Thundercats. It's everything from that era. He-Man, like I love that aesthetic, the cheesiness of it.
Oh yeah.
And
you're singing the song of my people.
Yeah, and then like Spelljammer is that it's He-Man meets Flash Gordon. It's got all this great stuff. There's space hippos, and it's just fun. And I've been wanting to do a Spelljammer set for a while, and I just throw it up in the polls, and it's always like second place. It's always third place. It never wins, but I've been secretly creating some of them. Let's see. I got one of my guys back here, Larrock, the Lich. He is actually he's a Spelljammer Lich, so he's like made of machine parts, like kind of magic.
Could you show him again? Because the window is really, really small. Let's check him out.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll focus.
Oh, wow.
There we go. So
wow.
So Larrock was the main villain for my campaign. It's Larry the Lich. I call it Larrock. Nice. But Larry the Lich was so from the future time travel thing, and basically the end of the second half of the whole thing was Spelljammer. So like I love realm space. I love the whole lore. Like that's why I have like the jam. There's the plasmoid girl. Other things like that. All of those are just ways for me to sneak Spelljammer stuff in because I really like Spelljammer. And I've been learning a lot of I like the aesthetic of it, but now I've actually been like reading up on it now that the book's supposed to be coming out in August. And I was like, okay, cool. I got to get deeper into this and like try to make a set that'll be ready for August.
One of the things that I also appreciate about your stuff is that you also go out there with the topics. Like there's a centaur pizza delivery girl. And I saw this mini and immediately fell in love with it. And so like you do modern versions of these characters. Like what brought you to do that? Like are you like secretly wanting to run like a modern isekai fantasy or reverse isekai? Like what's that?
We're going right back to my campaign. So in my setting, the 9 Hells is a giant office building. And you go to hell, you're in an office building, it's just all that, and that's where like they had the Office release, and that's characters from that. And I was like, I like this modern idea. It's very Ugly Americans, I think, was the show that had that kind of feel to it. And I was like, I want to do minis like that. I want to do like what would Middle Earth be in the year 2022? Like if these fantasy creatures lived in our setting, what would they look like? What would they act like? Would a mimic be? It would be a water cooler. What would be a good, accountant? So you have the big dragon. You have like your career-driven woman power, all about, empowerment. So I put the big orc buff lady in there, and I thought like a Gorgon would be a good security guard. So just playing around with these funny ideas and seeing what I come up with. And luckily too, I have really good, really creative patrons who will they'll throw a gym in there. Like, 'cause I do something I think is a bit different than a lot of other patrons, where I don't just do a poll for like a theme. I have an idea gathering post every month where I'm like, hey guys, I want to do this. What would you like to see? And it's just a big comment spam. It's like I get 300 messages of just people like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if XYZ? And if some of those really stick out, I just make them, because it's like, that's funny, that's great. I love these ideas that other people can come up with, and like, how can I take that and then push a little further, or like how can I make them all related in some way? Because I want it to be the set to be a narrative. Like, I was gonna do lore posts for a while, but it just became so like very time consuming to also like write backstories for all these characters and release them. That's there. Everyone knows there is headcanon for all of these characters, but I don't want to force that lore on people either.
The June polls for monster armor, is that right? There's going to be like monster themed armors. Is that
so? Monster Hunter, that game?
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
What if Monster Hunter had D&D monsters?
Nice.
For a second there, sorry, go ahead.
It's like if you killed a beholder and turned it into armor, what would that armor look like? That's kind of where I'm at. My one I'm like really hung up on, and I'm so excited to do, because it's going to be the dumbest thing ever. The gelatinous cube armor. So it's just Minecraft Steve, but it's dripping. So it's like all it is.
Nice.
It's just boxes on you. I'm actually currently working on the owlbear hunter right now, and this was like a huge. Like everyone's like, no, don't kill the owlbear, and I was like, but they're supposed to be vicious, evil things. But I guess whatever. Some people like it can be cute and cuddly, because there's a lot of people making like the baby owlbear stuff now too. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go a little different on it. Like, it's like headcanon again. He didn't hunt the owlbear; he hunts with owlbears, and he's just wearing one of his fallen brethren as a suit, as like a dressing.
Yeah, okay.
Or he could have just killed an owlbear and he's wearing it. So it's really whatever you want it to be. But let's see. I can actually pull up what that looks like. Let me actually I'm working on it right now. I'm at my workflow is that I will do a sketch, a preliminary sketch, very loose, not very pretty, and then I actually pose a model, and then I do a base render of like the naked guy, and I draw the clothes and armor on top of it. And that's how I can really like make sure that it actually matches the pose. It's not just a drawing, because some things don't actually work in 3D the way they would in a drawing. And so I have to like first get something to draw over so I know it's actually going to function. But is there a way for me to share my screen? Oh, okay.
You should be able to at the bottom. There should be a share screen option. And I'll stop sharing mine and throw yours up here.
Cool. Ooh. So this is very, very Blizzard character inspires Rexar, the half ogre. But so this guy here is our owlbear hunter. He's got his paws and the whole cloak. I'm also working on doing like a version where he's a bugbear, like what he'd look like without the actual hood down.
Bugbears.
That is so cool.
So I'm currently working in the sculpt right now and kind of getting all the feather work done, so you can kind of get a sense of like the work in progress here.
Yeah, I dig it a lot. That's really cool.
So everything's layer based, so I can turn off and on. And
you weren't joking about drawing the armor on either. When you said draw the armor on, I thought you just got your Cintiq tablet out and you were like sketching the armor in 3D on it. But you posed the model, made a render of it, and then actually physically drew the art onto the render.
Yes, this is done, and I actually do have a Cintiq, but I bring it into Photoshop and I draw over it. Yeah, so it's like back and forth, 2D, 3D, 2D, 3D, 2D, 3D. It's this digital charcoal layers and history that comes across, and I think that's what really it gives it that like it's been touched. It's has everything's been accounted for, because it wasn't just in the moment. So like you don't get these kind of wacky, like that doesn't quite fit because it was just like, hey, let's see if that works. It's like, no, I like to really sit there and plan this out once I get the pose. The pose is the first thing. Once I get a cool pose locked in, then I can design the outfit. Because if you make a cool outfit, but then the pose blocks half of it, what's the point? Like he's hunched over. Why do I care about what his chest plate looks like? So he's just got wraps on his waist. You're not even going to see his, like he's bare chested, but it doesn't matter because you're not going to see it. So why spend all that time making that armor if I'm not going to see it?
So a lot of like miniature painters talk about over detailed models and models with just enough detail. Is that like part of your process? Like I noticed that if I were to look at your models, I would consider them enough detailed models. Like they're wonderful, but they're definitely not like Citadel. We put skulls over half of his shin.
Yeah. No, that's a balance I had to learn. I think I just got lucky and kind of hit that middle ground early on where it's like I had to think, it's like if it's a lot of detail, back then it wouldn't even show up on your print. The resolution wasn't there yet. Now it is. Now you can have skin pores on your thing with the 8K printers and all that. But so I just wanted it to, like, it has to read as a mini across a table. You know, you're not going to see all of that. You can hold it up and enjoy like those details, or if like people want to print them at 75 millimeter and stuff like that for display pieces. But I think it kind of comes back to like my inspiration, like Blizzard art. Everything's big and chunky. You know, it's very deliberate, and everything's about silhouette, and that's kind of what I want to bring into it as well.
I was super excited when I looked at like Esteban, and I was like, oh, I don't really have to worry about what's on like where he's gonna be seated in the wind cloud, because that's just like very smooth textured clothes, and it's very, I mean, it looks good, but like I'm not gonna have to worry about, like, I had this model the other day where there was a little skull like underneath her hair in like the like a tramp stamp armor piece that I had to like get up under there. Thank you so much for not doing that. Like you're not gonna see it, especially at mini, like on the table, you know, far away, and it just makes it a nightmare to paint. And I think you focus, like, you know, when you're talking about your ooze girl, by the way, she's one of my favorite things ever. She's got the big cool gauntlet, you know, thing, and that's like the focus, right? And then the rest of her body's kind of more to emphasize that she's gooey and drippy, and I think that's so neat. And yeah, like it's relevant detail, but not like extraneous. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and that's another one. That's my character I'm currently playing in my wife's campaign.
So wait, you were already playing a plasmoid pre-plasmoids being announced?
Yes, I was using the Unearthed Arcana stuff.
Okay.
But now the gauntlet is her house.
Okay.
So the idea is she like groups into it and then walks around in it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you said 15 years for Esteban. Did you play and then stop playing?
Yes. So Esteban originally was a Pathfinder character, and then I just didn't have a group to play with for a very long time. And it was like a high level campaign. He started at level 10.
Okay.
And so there was all this lore. Everyone loved it. And like I just kept writing little stories and things where like when people would DM their stuff, he would always show up as an NPC. And that wasn't even me asking them or like he didn't ask for permission. He was just that a fun character. But then like I only play him in one shots now because of that. Because the idea is that he's just, I'm in, I cause havoc, and I'm out. So so he works really well for that. But yeah, but I really would say like I haven't really been consistently playing D&D until the past 3 years, and I play every Friday now. We have a group where we have 3 alternating DMs. So if someone's too tired, we just rotate out. I've done
same characters or
no.
So each different game, yeah.
Yeah. So we have a 3 game. Well, usually 2 going on at a given time, but 3 people who will DM. So like when we finish one campaign, the third person picks it up, and then we're switched between those 2. But it's been really fun, and I think people get a kick out of mine just because of the humor aspect of it. I really lean into, and like I want it to be silly, charming, and memorable, and that kind of storytelling definitely comes across in my minis and the characters I create. And I'm just glad that people get to like, you know, share in that experience. That's one of my favorites you're pulling up there. She's fun.
So for
like
audio listeners, I pulled up a kobold as a magical girl with dress and heart-shaped buckle and giant staff. All the you don't shy away from the cute
No,
at all.
no.
But she still looks like she could mess you up, probably. Like
Probably.
she's got something going on there. And I also love that you made her Toril. Like she's name brand. She's a big deal then, right?
Yeah.
Like in the sailors.
She is like the Chibi Moon. She is she is like very powerful pint-sized sorcerer.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's I just again like I want to tell like a fun story with every single character. That's something that you could use as a plot arc or just a good one shot or a filler episode of a session type thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, we also noticed earlier that you actually paint minis.
Yes. So I'm not as good as my wife. She is fantastic. I actually usually get her to like paint the nice ones for my product shots. She just gets disappointed because she can't participate in the painting contests. But let's see, are any of these that I've painted? So I usually do the bigger ones because I like using my airbrush. I like dry brushing. So this is I think a Lord of the Print. Where is it? A printed obsession? I don't remember. I'm sorry. I apologize. Maybe you recognize
it's Lord of the Print.
Lord of the Print, yeah. So this is all airbrushed. It's kind of again, the lighting is not that great.
He's holding up a giant bone dragon from Lord of the Print that looks awesome.
Yeah,
it's very very
amazing.
Yeah, and then but my wife is really really good with color, and let me see if I can get this to focus on the mini, please. Here we go.
Very nice.
Yes. So that 1 second of focus you got there. That's the silver dragon. This was actually an NPC for one of hers. But she watches a lot of tutorials from Craft World Studios.
Yep.
And I've been doing stuff for them. It was an art trade. It was fun. I didn't think they would actually respond. I really like their painting, and I was like, hey, if I make you minis, will you paint them and post it? So nice. We've been doing this little thing where it's like about every 2 months or so. I just like, here's a cool mini, and they make a painting tutorial from it. So they've been doing that. And I love doing like cross work. I got a couple cool things in the works right now. This will be the first time I'm saying this, so you get the cool scoop here.
We like scoops.
So I'm hoping to do a Kickstarter sometime, either late July, early August. Battle of the Bards. Ooh. So dual stages with bards that you can put on your stages and have a battle of the bands across like your play area.
Nice.
So I wanted to feel like Scott Pilgrim. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
That amp versus amp brought into like the medieval setting is what I want to say. And so the band, of course, Tainted Mithril, the one from my site, they're coming back. I'm going to have brand new updated models for them, but I'm hopefully bringing in 6 new bands. So
wow. Yeah. That's a lot of new models.
Yeah. And I've been like secretly hammering away at these. And then way down the line, maybe sometime in winter or late fall, I don't know if you guys picked up on this. I like goblins.
A little bit.
I'm a big fan of the tiny green people, and there's this one artist who is this really really good concept art of goblins. They go by Uri, URI, and hopefully everything still goes well, because I haven't said this anywhere else, but they've said yes, they would love to do this. I want to do a goblin for every class set.
Whoa,
nice. Very cool.
So it's going to be it'll be all lady goblins, more than likely, because you always have I saw a Kickstarter recently of like a bunch of goblin guys, all different classes and stuff, but no one does the lady goblins.
Right. That'll make a lot of Pathfinder players happy, because Pathfinder players love goblins.
They're fun. They're kooky. I like them because of World of Warcraft. To me, all goblins have New Jersey accents. Flat. Like that's it. Yeah, I think it also is. So I'm originally from New Orleans. You can't tell because I don't have the accent. But I live in Louisiana, elsewhere, a couple of hours away, and my mom is what we would call a yat, someone who where yat, like that's like where the phrase is, but she sounds like she's from New Jersey. So I've always felt like the New Yorker accent characters have always really caught my attention. So again, lots and lots of goblins. Goldie is one of my favorites. That's one I've had for a while. And then everyone, again, the floor is lava. The goblins got to be off the ground. They got to be jumping. They got to be moving. They're spry.
Right.
They're using that bonus action every round.
Well, we are coming up on time, and it's time to shift over to our shout outs. But before we do that, I want to remind our chat that if you've got any questions for Adam, do get those in. We'll try to get those to Adam before we go to on. So first, before we bounce out of here completely, I want to make sure that everyone knows that $20 Miniatures, you can find you on Patreon. You've got a great Patreon. You're over on My Mini Factory. Is there anything else we want to draw people's attention to? I know you've got a Facebook page. Do you have a Twitter? You have Twitter. Yes. Yeah, because we follow you on Twitter.
Yeah, I have a Twitter. And then I also have, if you don't have a 3D printer, you can get them from my merchants on Etsy, and you can also find it on Only Games as well. I'm also one of the people on the Million Artist Scroll of that. So we'll see how that goes with the merger. I heard you guys talking about that last episode. But my merchants are the ones I would go first, because you can get that custom size you want. You can get all those cool little features. And, I actually have a spreadsheet of the merchants that you can find on my Instagram, actually. So you can actually find their shops directly, and I have them listed up like who's active. If they go inactive on Etsy, I'll take them off. So good way to find them.
Nice. Yeah. And a good way to know you're buying from somebody who is legitimately selling the models. And I'm noticing that is becoming a more of a problem in our industry.
Very true.
And we have something very special to shout out to this time. Speaking of cute owlbears, so our friends over at Duskground Miniatures surprised us with a model of us, which was a surprise. Specifically, the two of us, me and Jen, riding as halflings. Riding on the side of a cart that is being pulled by an owlbear and driven by a kobold, having the best time ever. We've shouted out to Duskgrounds before. We do appreciate their models. They're another company that does like very energetic, characteristic models. There's the cool factor sculptors, and then there's like the animated factor sculptors, and then there's the realistic factor sculptors. These are definitely a lot like your work. These could be cartoons. This could be a Pixar movie kind of characters, which I do appreciate. This is a completely free model that Duskgrounds sculpted. You can go to our website, printergames.com, and find the post there and download this model and print it out yourself. If you want us as models, I do know that we are optional, as is the flag with our logo. So if you just want the cool owlbear or any of the individual components, or just a cool cart, you can indeed print it that way. Or if you want to just have a couple of halflings to stick in your Blood Bowl stand, that is an option. So these are completely free. Thank you, Duskground Miniatures, again for doing this for us. It's surprised and
thank you very much.
Cackle. Yeah,
very, very good.
That's fun.
Any other shout outs from you two?
I was just going to mention, not a lot of people know of the Realm of Paths Patreon. It's they're mostly doing chaos stuff right now, and demons and demonettes. It's just they're kind of getting going, and I just wanted to give them a little attention because not a lot of people know them. I think when we talked about it, Param, you hadn't heard of them yet either.
I hadn't even heard of them. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. They're clearly they need a little help getting the word out there, and I think probably much more of a kind of visceral and more the army poses, multiple poses we were talking about earlier, but really good if you're building out some unusual demons for your chaos army would probably be a good fit.
I have one final shout out. That actually is a website I think helps out a lot of artists and helps in discovery. Is STL Bundles, which we shouted out to before. They've recently contacted me saying that, hey, we've got that Patreon problem figured out, so that they can start previewing everybody's models again. It's a website that just basically shows off all the creators, what they're offering this month, what they're offering in their previews upcoming of the next month. And I visit it every single month to see what everybody's doing. It's a great way to discover new artists or to make sure you're not missing something really awesome. And finally, I just want to again thank you, Adam, so much for joining us. Twin Goddess Miniatures is one of my favorite companies in the 3D printing space. These are models that could not exist without 3D printing. And I am so glad that there's a space opened up for models like yours, because like I'm never going to get a Centaur Pizza Girl from Reaper. Like they might do that once in a million years, but like to get like so many awesome, cool miniatures like this is just something that only exists because of the 3D printing spaces, like eliminated the barrier for artists like you. So I super appreciate what you're able to do. Go check out their stuff. Go buy some of their models. They are absolutely worth it.
If it's still May, their Magic Girl set is available. It's super awesome. If not, it's June. Check out their Monster one. It's looking pretty cool. So.
Yeah, they're on Tribes, they're on Patreon and Only Games and Etsy's, and you already heard the spiel. Go check them out. If you want to check out more of our stuff, go over to printyourgames.com, where you can find all the other episodes. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/printyourgames. We're on Twitter at twitter.com/printyourgames. And until next time, thank you all for joining us. Kristen,
don't forget your screen protector.
Bye.
Bye.